Hi, I'm Patricia Wolf. I'm the author of Opal, and I'm here at Better Reading doing some questions and answers. Well, I think fiction is really quite different, obviously, very different to journalism. I'm not sure how much it's influenced it in terms of storytelling, perhaps a little bit in pace, because it's very important as a journalist to write stories that are engaging to people, so I guess maybe I've brought that through into my fiction as well. The choice of crime fiction as a genre probably came from my experience as a journalist, because I'm very interested in a lot of the current issues that are impact on crime, whether that's methamphetamine addiction in the outback, which was something that I covered in my first book. You know, it's sort of broader themes, and I'm quite interested in including those in my fiction. And in terms of research, I enjoy the fact that in fiction you can make things up. It's a nice change from having to fact check every detail and quote, as a journalist. But I do a lot of research, both online and in speaking to experts and in speaking to police. So I don't know how that compares to other writers, but I guess the experience of being accurate and having to do some research definitely feeds into my fiction. I wouldn't just completely make it up without checking something. I definitely will never write romance. This is something everyone's always beating me up that there's not enough romance in my books. So I know that that's not something I want to do. I'm quite interested in families and domestic situations and the relationships around that, and I would like to try something that's a little bit less plot driven and a bit more character built in terms of family dynamics, but whether I actually will, I'm really enjoying the crime series at the moment, but yes, that's an area that I'm kind of interested in. I grew up in outback Australia. I grew up in a mining town called Mount Isa in northwest Queensland, so I do know the region sort of at a fundamental level. I have this long, deep context with it. But I always do a research trip before all of my books, somewhere around a month usually, out in the setting where I'm going to do it. So for Opal, I was out in far northwest Queensland, around Quilpie, Junda, Longreach, Winton, Opalton, that area, meeting miners, spending time there, talking to them. So I think that for me, it's quite important to spend time on the ground and kind of look at it from a writing perspective, smell it, taste it, see it, hear it, so that I can try and put that on the page when I'm writing the story. And it's such an amazing character, the Australian outback. It's such an important part of any story that's set out there, because it's such a big presence. It's not a soft little landscape, that it's just really dominating. So I think it's quite important to my writing, at least. So DS Lucas Walker, he's an Australian Federal Police sergeant. He works in the organised crime division, but his stories, when he's in my books, he's not always within his work setting. Sometimes he's on holiday, sometimes he's on the job. He's a really nice man. I've got a little bit of a crush on him. He's very caring, I think. He's really close to his family. He's a very genuine person, and he's totally dedicated to his work, which I think can be a fault, to the exclusion of all else sometimes. What else can I tell you about him? He loves the outback. He grew up there. He really feels at home out there. He's a proper Ocker Aussie, I think. I think he's really motivated by fairness and justice, and he's a little bit of an outsider. He's not, he didn't grow up with his mum, he grew up with his grandmother, he grew up in the outback, he didn't grow up in a sort of city environment. So I think he's a little bit of a rebel at some level in the police force. He doesn't always follow exactly the rules, and his weakness would be that he thinks he can make decisions on the fly, which sometimes he can and works well, and sometimes it doesn't work so well. And also he's really obsessive with work. Once he gets his nose into something, he just, to the exclusion of all else, will continue, and that's hard for the people in his life, I think. He definitely wants to do totally the right thing. He's not a rule breaker in the sense he wants to do illegal things, but he will try and get around the hierarchy, or he'll just make decisions on the fly without checking. And in an organisation like a police force, you can't really do that. Or you can, but it can get you in trouble. So, yeah. I think isolation, the isolation of living in the outback and how different people respond to that and how it motivates or doesn't motivate people is something that's come through in a lot of them. So both in Opal and in Outback, the isolation, the ability to be a criminal out there, how that, that's something that's motivated those people, but at the same time, the community that works together and sticks together also in this isolation. Well, in Paradise, one of the themes that we looked at was coercive control. The Paradise is the second book. And that's another thing that I'm just personally very interested in, is trying to bring, as I say, some of these issues that are in our culture at the moment and look at them from a fictional point of view. So that was one of the themes. In Opal, really, I guess, they're flooded in. There's this massive flood and they're stuck in this very small town. So I was stunned when I was up bush that they get their groceries delivered from Townsville, which is 1,200 kilometres away, every fortnight. And this kind of level of isolation is quite rare in the modern world, I think. We're so connected, and up there maybe your internet doesn't work, and I really wanted to see what that does to people and how they would respond to it. So there's a character who's from the US, and I use her as a way of putting an outsider's eyes on this level of isolation along with the insiders. And I think even if you personally are thinking this is a bit off, this might not be right, it's very hard to explain it to people outside the relationship because it's quite invisible. It's not like a physical abuse, or it can also be, but if it's if it's emotional and psychological, it's very difficult sometimes to explain that. Gaslighting by the perpetrator is very common, and you can start to question yourself and whether you're imagining it and your own sort of sanity in it. So I think it's really a really nasty way of abusing someone. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm in the book and I'm really immersed in it, I don't actually analyse it all that much. But when I've finished, I sometimes feel a bit like, oh, that was really like, I went through something there. If it's something, not all of them has it been so, like the coercive control one was quite difficult, and the one I'm writing now is not so easy either. But afterwards, I try to walk in nature, spend some time with friends, remind myself that I made it up. Yeah. And it's not real. But it is, you wonder why I wonder why I choose to spend time in these people's mindsets. Having said that, there's a character in the books across the series called Stefan Markovic, who's the bad guy, who's kind of Lucas Walker's nemesis, if you like. And I really like him. I actually really like writing him. He's not a nice person, but when I'm in his person, I enjoy the writing. So I don't know, what does that say about me? So my typical day of writing would be that I write in the morning, so I like to get up and pretty much get straight into it, and I try to do about 2,000 words a day, which if it's on a good day will take an hour and a half. On a bad day might take three or 4 hours. I try to do that every day though, just because we have quite tight deadlines for the books. I've been a journalist for over 20 years, and we write every day, and you have someone screaming at you from the other side, this guy needed it yesterday, so I'm really used to having to get up and work, and so I don't have any rituals other than knowing that I want to do that kind of word count. After I do my word count, I don't go back over it, I don't sort of edit it, I just add it to the manuscript and I do the edit at the end. And then I will usually get up and go outside and do something physical rather than being at my desk. But I'm still thinking a lot about what's going to happen next and about the book in general. So during the rest of the afternoon, I'm processing the plans for the next day. So I guess that's my kind of ritual, is write and then think about what's going to come. Sometimes I might make some notes for the next day and then get onto it again the next day. I find it really, really important to do things that are away from the desk and the times when I'm not writing, because it lets the ideas come. Driving, I'm in Australia and I'm driving on a road trip or something, is amazing. It's just like, you can sort of zone out. That sounds bad. I'm quite a good driver, but you can zone out. Or walking is another thing, go for a long walk, So for me, that's quite important. So usually, once I get into the flow of it, it's just fantastic. It just comes, and you're not really even consciously thinking about it. You're just writing what you're seeing or thinking, onto the page. There are the times when you maybe hit a bit of a wall, or you're not you know, the plot isn't going exactly how you want, and then it's a little bit more like pulling teeth. But you just, I find if I work through that or take a break away from the page and come back, it's just, when it really flows like that, it's fantastic. We're a little bit schizophrenic writers, I think, that we've got these characters talking to us. And for me, when I'm writing, it's almost like I'm watching it happen and I'm writing down what's happening. So it's a very kind of visual to the page experience for me. But I actually think most people have a story they could tell. It's just something ignites it. Some moment, something will come along, and you'll, you know, if you like to write. And the other thing I would say for people who want to write is to try and write a little bit every day, even if it's only 10 minutes or in a journal, because once you're in the habit of writing, it just becomes so much easier to extend that than to sit down and think, I'm going to write, I don't know, 2,000 words. It's not necessary. Just say, I'm going to do 10 minutes every day. You know, by the end of the week, you've done over an hour, and you'd be surprised how quickly it adds up and how quickly the words add up. The first one, it just came completely, and the first book hadn't been commissioned. I didn't have a publisher or an agent, so I was really doing it for pleasure. But now that I'm working in a more sort of organised way, if you like, with my publisher, they do like an outline that tells, but I'm really more of a, not exactly a pantser, but more, I like things to happen by accident as I'm writing, like, oh, that's interesting, this has come up for me, you know, so it gives the story a bit more naturalness if you let some serendipity in. That's my personal feeling. Yes, so the fourth book in the series, and it will be out in August. It's called Nemesis. This book sees Lucas actually out of Australia, in Germany, hunting down Stefan Markovic, who has been his nemesis throughout the series, and also spending time with Barbara, who's his kind of, I don't know, a really good friend of his, but there's something a little bit more going on. And she's been through the books as well, and a lot of readers had said to me, what's happened to Barbara? So Nemesis is the answer of what's happened to Barbara. And there are two cases in this, Lucas's Australian-based case, and Barbara, who is dealing with a murder case of her own. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what readers think for the first non-Australian setting in the series. One thing that I'm really excited about, amazed by, super in awe of, is how many great Australian crime writers are out there at the moment, and how much international success they're having, and this kind of whole Aussie noir thing, how it's just kicked off. I don't live in Australia full time. I live in Europe. But when I come here and I get to go to the festivals and meet all the crime writers, I just think, what a moment for Australian writing, especially in this genre, you know. And it's something for Australia to be a bit proud of. Thanks everyone for watching. Opal is out now. Nemesis is out in August.